Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We are breaking down the biggest global headlines for July 6th, 2026. My goal here is simple, really. We're going to take today's massive, incredibly complex global shifts and figure out exactly how they ripple right down into our daily lives. No spin, just data and facts. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We've got four main sections to hit. 1. Geopolitics and global flashpoints. 2. Disasters and crisis response. 3. U.S. policy and justice. And finally, 4. Sports and scientific breakthroughs. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Geopolitics and Global Flashpoints. Our first major story takes us to Tehran. And I mean, look at this. The streets are absolutely choked with these incredibly dense crowds. We're talking a massive state procession, a military truck carrying the coffins of the late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and several of his family members. But this isn't just a funeral. It marks an absolutely critical political transition for the Islamic Republic, and it's happening right in the middle of heavy ongoing regional proxy conflicts. The implications for the balance of power in the Middle East? They are enormous, and history tells us that any shift here eventually ripples right down to global oil prices and, yep, our own gas pumps. And this brilliantly illustrates just how fragile that region actually is right now. I mean, we went from hopeful discussions about U.S.-Iran shipping truces directly into this violent fracture. Just off the coast of Oman, a projectile heavily damaged and set fire to an international commercial shipping vessel. This kind of maritime assault significantly cranks up defense anxieties in the Gulf. Honestly, it's a real-time stress test for global diplomacy. Meanwhile, over in Europe, a totally different kind of alliance pressure is building up. 5%. That's the number. Washington is pushing incredibly hard for a massive new military spending target of 5% of GDP. To put that into perspective, the traditional goal was always 2%. And even then, a lot of nations really struggled to hit that mark. So jumping up to 5%, that is a colossal financial ask. And it's sitting right at the very top of the agenda, as world leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, touched down in Ankara, Turkey, for a high-stakes NATO summit. But the situation on the ground in the host country, it's incredibly tense. Just ahead of hosting this massive world summit, Turkish authorities carried out sweeping security raids across multiple cities. Over 100 people, including some pretty high-profile journalists and academics, have been detained. Now, this crackdown directly followed localized anti-NATO street marches. It is definitely quite a juxtaposition, right? Watching these intense internal security operations unfold right as international leaders are arriving to talk about unified defense strategies. Rounding out our global map, diplomacy is basically being tested everywhere right now. Closer to home, U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, had to actually go on television to explicitly shoot down rumors that Washington was secretly backing an upcoming Alberta separatism referendum. He made it crystal clear the Trump administration has a strict, hands-off stance on this. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, defense envoys are desperately pushing a fresh multilateral blueprint. The goal? To force Moscow and Kyiv to the negotiating table to finally end the Russia-Ukraine war. And they're doing this even as cross-border aerial operations and localized artillery battles just continue along the front lines. Diplomacy is literally working overtime right now. Moving on to Section 2, Disasters and Crisis Response. It is with really deep sadness that we have to report this number, 3,000 fatalities. Local health authorities in Venezuela have confirmed this catastrophic death toll following twin earthquakes that measured magnitudes 7.2 and 7.5. And it's just devastating. With 10,000 more people remaining severely injured or homeless, the big takeaway here is the sheer reliance on cross-border goodwill. International search teams like Canada's Burnaby Urban Search and Rescue are just now wrapping up their initial operations. It really shows how localized disasters can instantly become these global rescue missions. Let's move to and see how this builds into our domestic crisis response, which is being tested on two totally different fronts right now. First up, down in Louisiana, following mid-June's severe tropical storm Arthur, FEMA has officially opened up immediate relief application pathways across 4 hard-hit parishes. This is specifically tailored to help families rebuild lost homes and offset personal property damage. Simultaneously, if we look to the skies, the NTSB just put out their preliminary review of last month's totally devastating Missouri skydiving crash that claimed 12 lives. They've officially ruled out primary mechanical failure, confirming the aircraft's engine was actually fully functional upon impact. In both cases, we're seeing federal agencies stepping in to provide crucial answers and long-term relief.
Okay, Section 3, U.S. Policy and Justice. Let's look at some domestic ripple effects.
To commemorate the nation's 250th anniversary weekend, the White House has officially rolled out what they're calling Trump investment accounts for newborns. Basically, this initiative is a tax-advantaged savings program that gives a one-time federal seed deposit of $1,000 for qualifying registered children under the age 18. So why does this matter? Well, it's all about compound interest. Planting that $1,000 at birth could yield a massive financial safety net by the time that kid turns 18. It fundamentally shifts how we think about building generational wealth. Now, over in public health, leadership is currently under intense scrutiny. While appearing on CBS News' Face the Nation, former CDC Chief Medical Officer Dr. Deborah Oury leveled some pretty sharp criticism at the agency's trajectory under HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. She specifically pointed out this staggering statistic. Recent polling is showing a 20-point collapse in public trust regarding the institution. Regardless of where you stand, it's a very clear indicator of the ongoing high-stakes battle over federal health policy and, honestly, the deep challenges in maintaining public confidence right now. Out in Utah, a massive, highly publicized legal battle is underway. The 5-day preliminary hearing has begun for the accused killer of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Prosecutors are officially seeking the death penalty against the defendant, Tyler Robinson. But beyond the intense national spotlight of this live-streamed hearing, this is incredibly heavy for a much more human reason. This marks the very first time Kirk's family has had to actually confront the suspect in a courtroom setting since the killing. So the crucial point here is that sometimes the justice system has to correct its own catastrophic errors. 2072, that is the exact number of days a Kansas woman named Karate Buckhorn was wrongfully incarcerated. In a move that really shook up the Midwestern judicial system, a Douglas County judge ruled that Buckhorn successfully proved her innocence in a 2018 infant death case. She's now secured her certificate of innocence and is legally entitled to nearly $370,000 in state compensation. If you do the math on that, it breaks down to roughly $178 for every single day of her life that was stolen behind bars. Finally, Section 4, Sports and Scientific Breakthroughs. Let's look ahead to the future. In a massive development just in time for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, soccer's governing body has totally reversed its prior suspension of a premier star on the U.S. men's national team. Now, what makes this fascinating is that the reversal directly followed public pushback and direct intervention from President Trump. This is pretty wild, honestly, because FIFA has notoriously strict rules against government interference in soccer. So this makes it a really rare, powerful collision of global sports administration and high-level political leverage. And in the medical world, we are seeing an incredible leap forward. Federal regulators at the FDA have officially greenlit a cutting-edge clinical treatment backed by Emory University. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this therapy is engineered explicitly to combat highly aggressive, resistant strains of breast cancer. It's an absolute game changer. It's a monumental win that shows exactly what happens when public health research successfully teams up with corporate biotechnology. It is offering real, tangible hope to patients fighting the most stubborn forms of the disease. Wow, okay, we have covered a lot of ground today. From shifting power dynamics in the Middle East and $1,000 baby bonds, all the way to world-changing cancer breakthroughs in the lab. The world is moving incredibly fast, and as we've seen, every single one of these macro events eventually finds its way to your front door. So I want to leave you with this. From shifting alliances to medical leaps, which of today's headlines do you think will most alter your tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.